Look, detectives combing through the hood looking for a corpse. Draco hitting, I don't think your body can endure the force. I whipped the fish up with a fucking hanger or a fork. Told that bitch, go ahead, sniff what you want, there's plenty more to snort. I had an outstanding warrant for a short. Turned myself in, rocking Louis and all my jewelry, I wore the court.
To shoot these tiny little holes, right? There is a general level of acceptable accuracy, right? And what is that general level of acceptable accuracy?
It's called the cardiovascular triangle.
Exactly.
From here to your tits.
Yeah. So
there is a kill shot.
In a place that is going to
on all these
pretty quickly affect hydraulics, right? You're either going to affect the computer up here immediately, or you're going to affect hydraulics up here. Because the fact of the matter is, and I don't have a lot of like legitimate numbers or stuff to back it up, but pistol ammunition can be put into a human body multiple times, and that body can keep going for a little while. Yeah. That's all there's to it.
Two.
Yeah, I was, and I can't tell. I wrote it up.
Scan target.
One.
Wait till I reholster, buddy. Okay.
Three.
Lost the dot for a second. I had to use iron sights. I really. And this is drop in, right? You just drop the dot on there, and these are these straight alignment with your sights. Okay. Keep both eyes open. See your sights straight, but you're looking at the target. Okay.
Okay.
So we are seeing that the sights are aligned, but we're focusing on the target. Okay. Even with iron sights. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead. Just 2 rounds on one. Go ahead. Center. Very good. Okay.
Is he left eye dominant?
2 rounds. Second target. Oh, there we go. Third target. 2 rounds. All right. I want you to focus on those a little more. That's getting to the point. That's getting to the distance of where you really need to actually start considering your heavier front sight post or your heavier emphasis on your dot or accepting your dot movement. In this case, we're talking about the front sight post, right? So
yep.
1 round on target 3, center mass. Okay, take your time. I want to see where you're at.
Nice.
Very good. Perfect. Okay, right in the circle. Okay, because it's 22 versus 9 mil. So go ahead and send the slide forward. Okay, get your repetition, get your sight picture in, get 1 in there. How did it feel? Good presentation. All right, go ahead and load and make ready. Straighten out the trigger and ha! Little magazine well bite there. Okay, he got his second sight picture right there, which is great. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and call it out, and it'll be 2 rounds each. Okay.
Yep.
2-1. So M1 carbine, don't know the year on it, but I don't know, something about Milsurp guns. Like, it's funny, I've got an M1 Garand from late manufacturer. I think my Garand's from like 54, but like, we'll go to the range with Milsurp guns. My brother Mason and I, we'll shoot the Milsurp guns more than we'll shoot modern guns all day. You know, there's just something about them. You know, in a lot of cases, you know that they were made down the street in some cases, right? Like my neighbor, you know, fast forwarding another era of firearms, our neighbor worked for Colt for 50 years, right? So, you know, being a bit of a history enthusiast, you know, having these things is just awesome. So it's been over 20 years since I've shot an M1 carbine. So let's give this a shot. I think I'm good on the manual of arms. Sure. Let me dry fire it real quick. Okay, that is fire. Okay, good. Recharge it. Go ahead and insert. Push. Pull. Good. On.
Ooh, that looks smooth.
Come shoot a piece of history. Come here. All right, let's go from the knee. You're good. Okay, look over here. That is the safety. You're going to rotate that forward to shoot, okay? I'm going to go on your other side and so that brass doesn't hit me. Take a knee. Yep, you're good. Take a knee. Okay. Get a sight picture first before you shoot. The sights are small, remember? Don't worry about the sling. There we go. Okay. You got a good sight picture?
Yep.
Okay. Rotate the safety. This is going to feel like shooting an AR, okay? Go ahead. All right, so you got it, there we go. Nope, you got two, okay. So what we're gonna do, we've got to drop the magazine out, clear it.
Yep.
There's still one in there without it being discharged, so it'll probably shoot. We would get rid of it in combat though. Try it again.
Yeah, buddy.
And rotate this. Yeah, drop the magazine. You're good. You gotta press it right over here. Press it forward. Drop the mag. Clear it. Open it up and clear it. Clear. Put it on safe. Good job, dude.
Nice
I like
job, buddy.
shooting that.
So he's like, all right. So he got me. He's like, dude, you got to come try out for wrestling. You're like a big kid. Like, again, doughy as shit. You know. Got into wrestling freshman year. I think I lost like 40 fucking pounds. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And he was a captain. You know what I mean?
Oh, you were?
Yeah, but the wrestling.
Bro, you don't talk about your shit. Dude.
Yeah, I mean, I had a winning record. I had like a 12-5 record. It was actually 18-5, but there was forfeits, so I don't count those,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
But the thing was, like, with most athletics I do, I'm like bottom of the top third,
Gotcha.
if that makes sense,
Gotcha.
right? So
Yeah.
like, I was an okay
You're very
baseball
humble,
player.
though.
Yeah, okay baseball player, but not competitive enough to like really want to do it in high school.
Gotcha.
And the coaches had this attitude about them, like all their kids are going to be in the MLB.
Yeah.
And I'm like, look, I'm here to have fun, right? So I canked baseball after my freshman year, and I started going track and field. But wrestling was a mainstay because honestly, I knew I was going in the military. And back then,
When
it
did
was,
you? When?
when did I figure out I was going to
Yeah.
go in the military?
Yeah.
Oh, freaking the whole time. You know, born. You know what I mean? Like,
Did you know that about him as well, Pat?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Like, so with wrestling, it was like, okay, this is a martial art, right? At the end of the day, it's a martial competitive art,
Of course.
and I knew that it was going to be helpful for service to the country because it's a physical thing.
Of course.
And with people like Nick, because Nick, you wrestled 215, right?
And 189. Yeah.
And 189, I wrestled 160 with multiple 3-pound allowances. So I technically weigh like 166. So wrestling with somebody like him during practice helped me a lot during. But like I got second in the sectionals for this area of Connecticut. But when I went to go to state championships because I qualified, I didn't have enough body fat my senior year. They do caliper, unlike the tape for the Marine Corps. So they do caliper in Connecticut at the time. I only had like 4.1% body fat. They said I wasn't healthy enough, and I'm like, I'm 12-5, technically 18-5. Like I'm healthy. I'm just skint. You know what I mean? So I couldn't wrestle that year. My brother Mason had to wrestle my place. Because he was very good too, and he didn't do that well that year, but he ended up getting.
Total fucking musclehead.
He ended up being.
Yeah, dude, he like maxed out his bench like 500 pounds.
Come on.
Yeah.
No, I'm
What
telling you.
age
like,
is this?
What's that?
What age is this?
Oh well, he was probably 22 when he did that. But
Yeah,
I just mean like he was always a fucking.
But you
physical
did well. You won NCCC, right?
Yeah.
You won the sectionals, and what'd you do?
Another thing, like he doesn't want to talk about it. State runner-up. Whoop de fucking do. You
First
know
to
what I
lose.
mean? Like yeah,
First-
right.
First to
exactly,
lose.
exactly.
We won't let him forget it, right?
5 times state
People don't
placer. Yeah, 4 times state placer. We'll say that instead. And
So what was it like when? I mean, you guys clearly knew he was going to go in the military. What was it like when he left? I mean, did you guys support him like going away? I mean, that's always a tough.
fuck yeah. And here's the thing, like I followed him into wrestling, which at that point was like the toughest thing that I ever did, and ended up, like I said, losing 40 pounds, going on to be almost state champ. You know what I mean? And like it carved me out of stone after that period of my life, right? And so I was really thinking about following him into it. Like one of those sliding glass door moments of your life where it's like, and then I ended up being a fat drunk in college for a few years instead, but seeing him go away and him coming back was incredible, and I'm sitting there like asking all the fucking questions you should never ask somebody, not knowing any different. And it's been amazing seeing him take what was a really raw talent in high school, where he'd go out, we gotta fucking go out there, we gotta, giving these inspirational locker room fucking speeches.
That was him?
That was him, yeah. Like, it was equal parts motivation, equal parts like inspiration, and then we'd go out there and we'd do it. And then seeing him now funnel this into like Marine leadership, shit I don't know anything about, but I'm sitting there like, that is him carved completely from where he was into a singular direction, which I think is an incredible talent.
Of course.
It doesn't, when I think of the like typical jarhead, you know what I mean, or the stereotype of a Marine, he is doing everything to subvert those expectations, right? It's about leadership, it's about intelligence, it's about self-reflection, it's about how to be a better leader, how to be a better individual, all the shit that I think the military should be about self-improvement, which is why I personally, and maybe I'm biased, think that he's like the perfect example of the soldier that I would like to see.
I would agree.
Representing us. So,
Well, it's good. We talked about like the rally points earlier, right? Like I said in my retirement speech, right? Like not everybody who joins and does 20 years in the military has multiple rally points back home, right? And, you being, like I told you guys, like you guys being part of that rally point, right? We got Peterson Road here in Connecticut where I grew up. We've got freaking Suffield where we just were over at my uncle's place, and we've got our main property, right? And I mean, that isn't like some type of like we grew up freaking privileged. Like hell no. Like this is a construction company. Everybody works their ass off, right? Like
that's important to know.
Yeah, it is, right? And my parents grew up pretty poor, right? I mean, there was like days where freaking they would talk about like water in the sewer and shit, right?
Absolutely.
And they worked their ass off their whole life, and they stayed in that spot. And obviously the family is still here, but the friends are an extension of like that rally point being around, right? And I say I'm fortunate, right? That I was able to, regardless of where I went in the world, regardless of where I deployed to, where I was stationed, always had the rally point to come back to, because you live in West Hartford at this point, so he's 25 minutes away, something like that, right? Patrick's about to move back in here to this house because my parents are building another house in Maine, and this will be a rally point arguably forever, right? Hopefully,
I think he's also being humble too, because
I can tell.
Yeah, if he was an asshole, nobody would want him around. You know what I mean? Like people are drawn to.
You can be hard. You can be hard in the Marine Corps and not be an asshole.
That's what I mean.
It's called setting the example when you go into PTM in the morning.
But you know how rare that is.
Yeah,
you've seen that.
And I think we can jump around all day and talk a lot of different things. But what I think the Marine Corps is benefiting from right now the most is GWAT.
Talk about it.
NCOs and GWAT babies, as I say. So if you were at NCO, if you were a corporal or sergeant when the war started, you might be a regimental level sergeant major or master gunnery sergeant right now. If you were a boot when the war started, you're probably a battalion level sergeant major or master gunnery sergeant right now, right?
You're right.
So and that extends to the lieutenant colonels, right?
Yep.
So that extends to our 05 level commanders, right? Both in squadron and battalion across all levels and areas of the Marine Air Ground Task Force, right? That experience is invaluable, right? Is invaluable. Invaluable, right? Invaluable experience. So you've got a crew of leadership that has seen combat in whatever job they do, and if your role in combat is controlling air, right, or your role in combat is a refueler, like your refueling point or something like that. I don't care if you're a master gunner sergeant right now who's a bulk fueler.
Yep. You
did that bulk fuel job in the beginning of the wars, and I guarantee you have something to pass on to the boots right now and the young NCOs, right?
I'm gonna challenge you real quick though. We're in a garrison time, if you will. Is that not being utilized properly? Are these guys not being able to, use that great information or intelligence to pass on to the younger guys?
Garrison is just a place to prepare for combat. Period. Right. And there's some other things that we sprinkle in there. There's parts of the military experience that are timeless. We're never going to get rid of. Right. We're never going to get rid of having a uniform. We're never going to get rid of having some ceremonies, right? And at the end of the day, like, conducting drill and ceremonies isn't my favorite part of my experience, but you know what? It's in my job description. Literally, it's written into the 8999 MOS manual, right? My job, part of it, is facilitating drill and ceremonies, and then being, you know, your essentially your senior advisor for all things personnel, right? And then there's also the section, I think it's K in there, assist the commander in the operational mission of the unit, right? Which people usually associate with Master Sergeant or the company gunning, right? Or the Master Guns Ops Chief, Comm Chief,
Usually
Engineer Chief, whatever they are,
yeah.
right? The most invincible company level unit in the Marine Corps is a place where Master Sergeant and First Sergeant get along and are singularly
You're right.
combined focus on the mission, right?
Absolutely.
And they understand each other's roles, and they can advocate for, you know, facilitating the decision-making process of the skipper, right? Whether it's a captain or a major, you know, at the battalion level, I can tell you right now, I've seen a sergeant major, master gunner, sergeant combination that wasn't a good relationship. It was like, it like almost infected the whole unit, right?
Morale.
And the unfortunate part is, you know, we are an institution that for some reason we decided that the sergeant major is the senior enlisted advisor, right?
You're right.
The only place you'll find that not to be the standard is kind of MARSOC, right?
True.
Because, you know, the master gunny is probably the one who's the raider, right?
Exactly.
Who's the critical skills operator, right? But in the rest of the Marine Corps, you've got master sergeants and master guns who
Maybe you never see, or
maybe you never see, or maybe you don't see them because they're working their ass off and they're so involved in operations and planning, right? Or you've got the sergeant major, you see him all the time, but maybe you see him for the wrong reasons. Maybe he's so wrapped up in his personal assessment of what orders and directives should look like, right? Maybe he doesn't like the fade in your cami.
are you talking haircuts and sleeves?
Haircuts and sleeves. But the way I've always looked at it is, if you were within regulations, the regulations are pretty broad.
They are.
We even relaxed them for hair a little bit. Now it's not 0
0 to 3 evenly graduated?
It's 0 to 3, not 0 to 2 bulk, 3 the length, right?
Gotcha.
At the end of the day, I look at a Marine. If the Marine or Corpsman, right? And I know the Corpsman's regs too. If the Marine or Corpsman are within regulations, I'm fine. Right. Now, living on the fringe of the regulations is where it gets
your most static.
You see static, right? And I've never had a problem with it. Like, I set the example for freaking hair regulations, right? Like, I'm showing you a good example of how you can have hair on the Marine Corps, right? I'm showing you a good example of how you can wear a set of camis the right way that maybe have been around for a while, right? But, you know, there comes to a point where you don't explain, like, okay, Marine, your camis are really faded. I'm not giving you shit about those camis being faded because I don't like the look. I'm telling you that the camouflage is less effective.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, the actual camouflage is less effective.
Big.
You know what I'm saying? It's all about how you
put it in
explain.
that mindset.
It's the
Exactly.
why, right? Like,
Exactly.
like I don't do personal interpretations, right? Like I told you, I don't like the fact that a Marine can run a third-class PFT.
Exactly.
But they can run a third-class PFT. Hey, but it's on the leader to be like, hey, homie,
You don't rock like that.
when I had to drag a dude off the road in Afghanistan, the fitness mattered. And I had a jacked corpsman who was helping me, and it was still hard.
Right.
Dead body weight is not something that's considered, you know.
Our ops
Much
chief
as it should be.
weighed 300 pounds with his gear on, because he was also the JTAC. So he's got multiple radios. He's got his freaking Mark 18 with his can. He's got an L
carrying
can
some
on
weight.
it. 300 pounds, and we dragged him off that road like nothing.
That's not easy.
It was hard, but we got him off the road like nothing, right? And the hard part came when the tick died down, and now we've got to carry him like 700 meters to the landing zone. And we had to get...
Oh, you're talking after that adrenaline stops.
Correct. The dopamine drop, 'cause, I mean, I'll
That's
tell
a
you
thing.
right now, there's nothing like
No.
that, you know.
You know what I'm talking about.
Did you get knocked out when you got hit?
Yeah.
You did get
Yeah.
completely?
I was cognizant still, but I don't know if you've ever been knocked out. You have like that fuzzy.
Only BMX stuff, but
Gotcha.
I never took a round to the fucking
Yeah,
helmet,
it was
you know?
But different. Yeah.
The thing is, like, back to we can go into the tangents about everything else. The thing about here and why it's been so great to have New England, right, as part of my life through a 20-year career is because there's always people I can come back to and sit in this damn barn or sit on that porch up there and just have an ear that will listen. You know what I'm saying? Like, and
Is that your outlet though? I mean, a lot of people say they don't.
oh, this place is 100% an outlet.
Yeah.
New England in general, like this town, these cluster of towns here, the bars that are in the area, and hey, ask my wife, ask Pat, both these guys have been there. Sometimes that outlet gets a little too loose. Hey,
We don't need to go into that.
we don't need to go into that.
That's the
Yeah,
thing.
Hey, sometimes that outlet gets a little too loose because you come back to a place where it's like, it's familiar. You got people that'll drive you around, whatever.
It's safe.
It's a safe place, right? But when you do this long career and you do the deployments, you do the crazy hours and the special duty assignments. All the special duty assignments have the crazy hours, right? And you're able to come back to a place where you can, like, for me, I can like unwind here for sure, 100%. Like, and it doesn't even matter. Like, there's no air conditioning in the house. Don't care, right? Like, there's bugs. It's fucking hot. Somehow New England has like this crazy opposite end spectrums of freaking
does.
weather. I don't care. I can come back here at almost any time of the year and I can freaking unwind, right?
It's been really interesting watching him grow up because, again, I take those memories of sitting in that fucking Volvo, driving around talking about chicks and listening to fucking Dashboard Confessional or whatever, right? And then fast forward 20 years, right? And I've done what? Went to college, got a job. Like, I'm still largely the same person with a little bit more maturity. And he'll come back and, like he's saying, like, yeah, it is an outlet, but it's been interesting to see this. I don't want to say it's a wall because he's still the same Shamus, right? But he's got a whole set of life experiences that I can never fucking relate to.
You've had a front row seat to this.
I have, completely.
Yeah.
Like, every single time
see
he's
him
come
every time
back,
I'm home.
yeah, I've been here, right? And so, like, post-deployment,
That's kind of something I wanted to ask.
Sure.
Have you seen a change? Now, listen, it could be for the better, it could be for the worse, but for him, when he comes home, this is safe for him. He can kind of let that wall down a little bit.
Yeah, so, again, not really holding anything back. Post, deployments, and maybe, like, there were a couple of rough times, and like he's saying, like,
of course.
I do think of him like a brother, grew up together, spent fucking hundreds of nights over his house, and like, like he had some rough times for sure. And, and I've met a ton of his Marine buddies too over the years, and people that, like, I'd be like, hey man, what's going on? Wouldn't say, like, they'd be like, oh, good man. No words, but they were like brothers, right? Like, there was no way that I was going to cross that bridge, but they had a bond that I couldn't even begin to understand, right? And I've met a lot of them, and some of them are fucking awesome, and some of them I'll probably never see again in my life. But where he is now and watching this transition, I think, like, he went through the fucking crucible, and he had to deal with his own shit, however he had to deal with it, but he did, because the guy here
That's what I'm getting to. He did. Now, a lot of people get stuck in that. A lot of people nowadays, we talk about it a lot, man. They get stuck in that mindset of not being able to pick themselves back up.
Yeah.
And he clearly did.
He fucking did.
Not everybody has my wife Crystal to fucking hold my ass accountable.
There you go.
Behind every great man.
Pat will tell you about my wife holding shit accountable.
Oh yeah.
That's the thing, though.
Oh yeah. I mean, even I've noticed. I mean, I haven't left this town in my entire life. So whenever he comes home, he's the same, essentially the same person he was in 2003 when he left. I mean, it's always, we can always come down here and hang out in the barn, like he was saying, up on the porch. I mean, yesterday we spent the entire day just sitting on the porch.
We were gonna have some buddies over last night, and I was like, you know what? I'm good right now. I'm good sitting on the porch, just doing whatever.
Didn't know where it would take you.
Well, we walked 11 miles in freaking New York City the day prior. Everybody was just smoked,
Saw that,
right?
yeah.
So, like, the kids were fine, having a chill day, but it's just this place is just it's really hard to kind of capture or articulate, like, how important it is to have something like that.
I mean, it needs to be noted that, you just retired. You've never felt this before. I mean,
Right.
I'm sure 1,000 things are going through your head right now about how you should be and how you want to be.
Yeah.
I mean,
We'll walk inside, get another beer.
yeah. All right, man. So you just got out. Where's your head at? And I mean, I'm sure you're being overwhelmed with what you should be doing or what, where you want to go. I mean, talk to me.
I mean, I probably got 100 DMs and comments to respond to, and I haven't even made a post about it yet. I put one picture of my wife and I on my personal Instagram, and some people shared it, whatever. And I'm going to get to it, right? But the thing is, I was very lucky to be approved for Department of Defense skill bridge program, right? So you got out in 2013, so it not
Wasn't
something
really a thing, yeah.
wasn't really a thing, right? And you know, what is SkillBridge, right? SkillBridge is a collection of industry partners around the country that have agreed to essentially intern or extern, unpaid internship, and train service members who are transitioning from the military within their last 6 months.
Okay.
Right? So the way I did SkillBridge was like the build your own. Like I found a company, got them added to the registry for SkillBridge. The new Department of Defense, the new Marine Corps guidance kind of slims that down a little bit. My best advice to Marines who are trying to transition and use SkillBridge, you need to use a partner that is already on the registry, right?
Okay.
And you know, when I do a post about it eventually, like I'm going to break it down because there's a nav map now. Before it was just a MAR-admin, right? Okay. It was a MAR-admin from 2018. A lot of senior enlisted were kind of apprehensive about it, and then that apprehension kind of like transformed into critical guidance to the commanders about SkillBridge, right? In my situation, there's always a gunnery sergeant who wants a first sergeant fit rep.
Of course.
There always is, because you can put 89.99 on that fit rep as a gunny.
Yes, you can. You broke that down.
So I had a gunny down there, David Wood, recently promoted gunny. His first fitness report is going to be 89.99, I&I first sergeant, and then he's going to the infantry. I think he's going to 1-4.
Good to go.
First Marine Division. He's going to do 3 years, and as long as he does well, I'm pretty sure that 89.99 fitness report is going to do well for him, right? So because he's a pipe fitter, right? So the unfortunate fact is, not every MOS in the Marine Corps or every billet in the Marine Corps has somebody who can immediately step up and take their place, right?
True.
And many commanders are not comfortable gapping that billet for 4 to 6 months.
Understandable.
It's almost like, I can't believe that you went on SkillBridge as the first sergeant. And I'm like, well, you got to remember, gunnery sergeants are ready to do it.
That's true.
And even if the guy doesn't want to be a first sergeant, sometimes he just wants to do something different for 5 months.
Yeah, exactly.
You know. So what did I do? I did. There's a company called JCK Concrete.
Okay.
JCK is an acronym for the names of the owner's 3 daughters.
Of course.
Nothing crazy. That's the acronym for the names of the daughters. I work for JCK Logistics, so there's multiple LLCs kind of under the umbrella of JCK Concrete, right? Which it's funny because you know with the old man Pat and I, we did concrete growing up, right? So, but my level of growing up, I was just the guy with the trowel, right? Or the guy breaking the ties off after the foundation.
Yeah.
You know, or putting pulling the frost blankets off the freaking concrete. It's still green.
At that age.
It's still green after freaking 3 days here in New England, right? You know, oh, I guess we can't work today. You know, but I'm taking a logistics operations manager position, and I will be doing everything essentially administratively that makes the ready mix trucks move.
Okay.
34 ready mix trucks. They're rear chute in Texas. I don't know what their problem is. They can't do fucking front chute. 5 tractor trailers with tankers to move the cement and the fly ash. I have a heavy hauler, which can move, well, it could move well over 200,000 pounds, but we're only permitted right now for 120,000 pounds.
Okay.
And I am doing pretty heavy consulting on the maintenance capacity because the owner has a lot of vision, right? This guy, Francisco, he has a lot of vision. And he wants to have another LLC for the shop, which will be a professional level maintenance shop that services ready-mix trucks and anybody else. Anybody who, hey, you want to pay us to turn a wrench on your truck?
Of course.
We have a very, very nice facility in the back of the lot, but it's essentially a shell right now. You know, there's, it's wired and aired for maintenance, but we don't have a professional lubrication system yet. We just have 55-gallon drums, and we're working on that. And I'm kind of consulting that because what I have found is if you're in the military and you are in a logistics or maintenance MOS, what you do directly applies to the civilian world.
Okay.
Because, turning a wrench is turning a wrench, right?
Yeah.
Most civilian companies, they have some type of maintenance system, right? Administrative maintenance online system that goes with the equipment. And at the end of the day, like, the work's not done until the paperwork's done.
That's true.
Now,
unfortunately,
that is important when it comes in business to capturing how much money you're spending on that particular asset, right? Because if that asset is you're spending more money on that asset than you're making hauling that ready-mix concrete, then you need to figure out what you're doing wrong, or you need to replace that asset, right? So we have a crew of 2 mechanics, plus 1 in the summer when one of the mechanics' sons comes to work. Okay. We have a welder, and we have a 4-bay shop, one of the bays being the parts, right? Parts we keep in stock. Okay. So like the layouts bin or the pre-expended bin, like all the stuff that Marine Corps Motor T and engineering maintenance and utilities maintenance, everybody does, like, it all applies, right? So I went in to this company and I'm looking at it and I'm like, I'm still a Motor T chief. I have literally approached every single thing I've done with that company as a Motor T chief. Really, I have. The only difference...
It all applies?
It all applies. It all applies. Preventative maintenance, corrective maintenance, all the commodities, your tool room, your parts you keep on hand, your parts you project to purchase. The difference in the civilian world is, I can go buy it that day.
So you would say would you recommend that to let's say a junior Marine that's getting out? I mean, focus on what you did with your MOS and directly apply it to what you're going to be doing in the civilian sector?
If you're comfortable being a wrench turner, you can find work in the United States, for sure. Now, if you're a wrench turner or like an embarkation specialist or a maintenance management specialist, so like 0411, 0431, or 0489, like a logistics chief, the art of making things happen is not something that can be taught in a school, right? And what I've found specifically with our 04XX MOSs, right? So our logistics side MOSs, right? They have a great ability to memorize people, persons and things, and deconflict where those persons and things need to go and what needs to happen for those things. Now, if you're like me and you got to be a Motor T maintenance chief and a Motor T operations chief and a recovery chief and an S4 chief,
multiple hats,
and you're a combat instructor who had literally 463 people below you, including the combat instructors, right? All that stuff matters, right? And if you're a first sergeant, well, you're kind of an HR manager.
Yeah.
And what I have found, I'm doing the counselings for the drivers.
Oh, really?
I'm doing our dispatchers have problems with, not problems with customers, but when customers call freaking a little heated, they just refer them to me. Keep the lines open. Keep the dispatcher lines open. And if the customer wants to call for an accolade or for some friction, we'll talk to them, right? And
where does all this come from, man? I mean, you're very confident in what you do. We're home. Where you grew up. I mean, was it a mentor that instilled this? You got to be motivated to do all this, man.
I think.
Or is that something that's just inside you?
Well, I don't believe people are born to do anything. I think people are a product of their environment and the people that are around.
Absolutely.
I'm not, oh, he's a born leader. Like, he's a learned leader, right? He's a learned logistician. He's a learned gunfighter, or whatever it is, right? We grew up around a group of people that worked hard. I mean, and you hear a lot of people talk about it up here. Like, people in New England just, if you're in the blue collar side of work, like, it's hard, man. It gets freaking cold, it gets hot, like, you're working long ass hours, sometimes you're working Saturdays, like, and at some point you kind of look back at that, and I've had many times in my career I've been like, well, this sucks, but I'm not in the bottom of a foundation at 95 degrees, like freaking trying to find level. I mean, the old man started his company in, I don't know, the late 80s or the mid 80s, and he's been doing it forever. My mom went to college for the first time at 37 years old to be a physical therapist assistant,
What I'm saying is, would you say that directly influenced you?
Oh, yeah.
In the way you carried yourself throughout the Marines?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, if your foundation, if your base of mindset is already working hard, you know what I mean? If it's already working hard, you go in the military, I mean, you do meet a lot of people who, maybe they haven't swung a pickaxe in their life, right? But maybe they're good at something else. Maybe they're really, really good at something else, right? You just kind of share knowledge, you collaborate knowledge with people, right? Nobody's perfect, but you come from a place like this where you're in a blue collar background, and then you do hard things in high school, like you wrestle, right? you run track and field, and then your wrestling coach is also the assistant track and field coach. So he makes you run the hardest thing. You're doing the 800 today. Fuck, I hate the 800. And then the funny part about it is 2009 rolls around, we get the CFT, what is it? It's an 880. I was so mad. Dude, I hated the 800 in high school, and I had to do the 880
No good.
for the Marine Corps Combat Fitness.
They'll break you off.
You know, you grow up around friends that are, you know, they're not closed-minded to one particular set of beliefs or whatever, and they'll listen to a reason.
Which is rare.
They'll challenge you on your perspective, right? They'll challenge you on your belt-fed bullshit, right? So it's just a good place to grow up.
I agree with you.
100% fed into like the way I look at serving, because I mean, sometimes you're going to work late. Yeah, we get a lot of time off. We get 96s and 72s, and we get 30 days paid leave. I'll tell you right now, you know, we make up for all that.
Definitely.
With the hours we work,
Definitely.
right? And I'm, you know, motor T maintenance chief. Like, my final motor T maintenance chief billet was the maintenance chief or the staff and COIC of Truck Company, 3rd Marine Division.
Okay.
So headquarters battalion, 3rd Marine Division.
Okay.
In Okinawa,
Yeah.
on Camp Hansen.
Just Hanson, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I distinctly remember, you know, Sergeant Trayson Cardoza, who was one of my MCT students, by the way, still remember me when I checked in, right? Now he's in Stone Bay in North Carolina.
You gotta love stuff like that.
He's getting after it as a staff sergeant now with, you know, with our Special Operations Command as a mechanic. He came in and he's like, "Hey, we got a solenoid that's down. Do you remember how to solder?" And I'm like, "Do you remember how to solder?" He's like, "I do, but this is kind of time sensitive. We need to." So I'm like, "All right, gather everybody up." You know, I disassembled this freaking solenoid, and I got the whole damn crew at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm a gunner sergeant, like resoldering this thing, reminding everybody how to do stuff, because the knowledge is perishable, right?
Of course.
You know, double-edged sword, because then you get home and your wife's like, "Why the fuck are you working at 2 in the morning? These trucks are broken when you fucking got here, and there's going to be more fucking broken trucks when you leave." Verbatim, that's what she told me, right? In 2017, no, 2020. And it's a hard thing, because you want to set the example and work all night with the guys.
But you need to have a family as well.
Right, and sometimes you need to trust well, you always need to, but sometimes you really need to like enhance your trust with the subordinate leadership, right?
Absolutely.
Because you might get, you know, you might be gone, you might get smoked in combat, you never know. So
That's something we gotta worry about, man. We are Marines at the end of the day.
yeah, we are, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the base of the question is, did this place kind of, you know, set the stage or whatever for success in my military career? 100%. I mean, hell, my uncle, you know, we were shipping with him earlier. He was a reserve Seaman, right? So he joined in the 90s under one of those cool programs where if you are already a professional blue collar guy, he was an electrician, right?
Okay.
So they had a program where you could come in, and after a couple steps and checks in the box, you're already a petty officer 3rd class.
Really?
Yeah. So he came in the 90s, he's an electrician, he's already a petty officer pretty quickly in his career, and he got sent down to Camp Lejeune to get some marksmanship instructor experience, right?
Okay.
So the Marine Corps taught him how to be an instructor in the 90s, right? How to teach marksmanship.
Really?
He came to one of our pool functions when I joined. I was 17 years old. He taught my whole damn pool how to disassemble and reassemble an M16A2. Yeah, my recruiters were standing around, and Uncle Dave's like, "Hey, can I jump in there?" And he's, you know, the CBs were always good about.
That's funny.
The CBs were always good about wearing their uniform. Right?
Yeah.
Right. So the old M81 camis with the CB logo here, and their sleeves, they rolled them the same way we did, right? And they just looked good. You know, he came in, disassembled, reassembled. When I went to recruit training, I knew 100% how to disassemble and reassemble an M16A2. I knew how to shoot, and my recruiters, both of them, Stephen Lee, Mortarman, and Jason Auger, MP, right? I remember the boot camp book of knowledge before you went, the Pooley book of knowledge.
Yeah.
I had no notes.
Come on.
100%. I knew drill movements, I knew all of it.
Now, are you gonna recommend that to guys though? Come in like that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I would recommend to any recruiter, like, you know, first of all, get off TikTok and stop being freaking cringy. But I mean, look, if TikTok gets you good applicants that are actually successful, I get it. But
Can you apply it though? I mean,
I don't know. Maybe I'm being salty. But
I don't think you can. I think that's closed-minded. I think at the end of the day, it can be utilized for something. We can argue about that all day, but, I mean, I think at the end of the day, what you just said applies 10 times more. I mean, practical application of these things.
The thing, I'm a product of people setting the example for 20 plus years. If you add in all the people, because like the extended network of my dad's contractor buddies, they're all great, right? You know, my interaction with them, hard workers, you know, really, I thank one of them at retirement, you know, just great people, right? And then I meet these recruiters, and in 2002, 2003, maybe they didn't have the same quota, I don't know, but I had phenomenal recruiters, right? I was fighting Jason Auger in the recruiting office. He was a instructor, you know, and we're grappling, you know, we're grappling down, right? Why not, right? So they set the great example, right? I go to recruit training, and you know, recruit training might have been a little physical back then, but
that's something that's a problem right now, man.
Yeah, you know,
a lot of the new guys look at that as hazing.
Recruit training was physically challenging and intimidating in 2003. That's all there is to it. And I mean, our drill instructors, the 4 that were in my platoon, they answered all the expectations I had when it came to their outward look, the way they wore their uniforms, their physical fitness. They were in their intensity. They were there, right? I go to Marine combat training, which back then was only like 17 days long. I had 4 instructors for that platoon. 2 of them answered the friggin' expectations, and 2 of them didn't. And that's when I started having my fucking eyebrow raised. Weirdos. Yeah, a couple of them were just weirdos, right? But 2 of them, and I'm telling you right now, one of the most important things I've ever heard in the Marine Corps, it was like the first 2 or 3 days of being at Camp Devil Dog, right? So they're not Camp Geiger proper, but over at Devil Dog. We're sitting in the bleachers outside that concrete block house, Mountain.
Yep.
We had an 0311 sergeant, combat instructor, right? Mad at all times, right? Just mad. He was like 5 foot freaking 7, just mad. And he's essentially doing his introduction, and he was with 8th Marines for the push-up to into Baghdad, right?
Okay.
So he's like fresh off of combat instructor school, fresh off of the march up to Baghdad. This is December of 2003.
Okay.
He's like, I just came from Iraq, I was with 8th Marines, I don't give a fuck what your MOS is. I don't care what you do. Every single person in my battalion saw combat. From the S1 admin clerk, the NBC officer, to all the 0311 main effort dudes in the bottom, you know, or the tip of the spear rather, every one of us saw combat. He's like, it is your responsibility to take this seriously because some of you are going to get fucking killed in the next 3 years. I'm like, oh shit.
That's real.
And it's real. It's 100% real, right? So, and there was a female instructor who had not seen combat, right? She was an admin Marine, and then she did a tour on MSG, right? And she was like, look, I haven't been over there yet, but this is basic skills, right? And these are the skills that are going to keep you alive and keep you, make you survive in combat, right? And it is on you to retain this, and, you know, and through repetition and keep going. And I was like, that makes sense. You know, the other 2 instructors, they were just, you know, you can pick out a non-example of leadership pretty quickly, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, not necessarily in the right mindset, like just, yeah. And then you make a decision. I'm gonna go that way and follow the dude who's like trying to be buddy-buddy with everybody and like saying weird stuff to the women and all this other crap, right? Or I'm gonna go with these 2, this one woman and this one freaking grunt who just got back from freaking combat, and I'm gonna follow that, right? So, hey, Marine Corps, the military ain't perfect, right? We got a lot of problems.
But you got to be able to choose who to surround yourself with. I think that's a huge deal.
Yeah. So, I mean, the beginning, and then you move from combat training, and then you go into MOS school, and MOS school's a freaking puppy mill. Yeah. You know, it's just a factory, right? And back then they were teaching a platform approach. So here's how you fix a 7-ton. Here's how you fix it.
A lot of the guys hadn't came back from combat.
Right.
Couldn't do that.
Yeah. You know, now it's better. They teach a systems approach to maintenance now, and then I get to my first unit, and man, dude, like that was an alcoholic motor pool. Like shocker, motor G's, right? But I'm like, holy, I'm like, dang, these guys really get after it.
Range drink, my friend.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay. But I quickly got into a security platoon, and I did my first deployment to Iraq starting in 04, and we'll talk about that.
Let's actually stop that right here.